Well, good morning. Today I want to discuss money laundering, the legal way of laundering money, and also talk about why it's ridiculous and silly for so many businesses to take money out of one business because they don't want to pay tax or want to reduce their tax, and then later on have all this extra money they've got to try to launder back in so that they can make it legal again. It's really ridiculous. And there's just so many cafes and restaurants and taxi drivers who do it. To avoid GST and income tax, obviously, and there's lots of other businesses I suspect that do it, and I think that it's a silly way of making money. In fact, you're losing money. It's penny wise and pound foolish, really, to do it. But so many people do it, and they think they're smart. In fact, I had a tenant running a restaurant a while back, and she always had problems paying the rent, but I noticed that she went overseas quite regularly, and she bought her children at Christmas time some iPhones, and I pointed that out to her. Why can you afford to buy expensive iPhones for your children, but for some reason you're complaining the business is bad and you can't afford to pay the rent. So there's a lot of stupidity, but I'm going to also suggest that people use credit cards when they go and buy food, because it's a ridiculous situation that you hand over money, they handle the filthy money because it's been in some terrible places, and which touches the food, and then of course you're eating their food. If you knew that the money that they're handling had been in a brothel handled by a sex worker and it had vaginal fluid on the notes, and if you knew what I knew when I worked on the public trustee, that the police would bring in money that people had, that they'd found on dead bodies, you wouldn't want to handle the money. You'd want to use credit cards, believe me. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to start putting some money in as hot water. Now, the Reserve Bank of Australia have approved the use of hot water to clean money of the bacteria. There's about 10 different types of bacteria, well, more than 10 types of bacteria in cash. It's been proven overseas by university studies that even polymer money has a lot of bugs in it. So the Reserve Bank have told me, after me asking them, can I use hot water? And they said yes, as long as it's between 60 and not more than 125 degrees Celsius. And the water here that I boiled initially, but now it's cooled down, and I'm washing the money and getting rid of any filthy bugs that might be, or bacteria. And I'm also going to suggest that people who travel overseas, that they buy a new wallet, throw the old wallet away, and wash their money before, and their clothes too, before they go travelling around, because these days they can do swabs and find remnants of drug dealers have handled the money, and there might be heroin on or cocaine or whatever on money, remnants, and you could be pulled over by the border patrol people at the airports, and they might think you've been dealing or using these illicit materials, and it would be pretty difficult to explain to your insurance company as to why you've missed a trip because you were held back while they investigated your possible involvement in the drug trade. So it might sound silly initially when I say that you should launder money. In fact, what I'm going to even further suggest is that every week when you wash your clothes, your old overalls, you put all your notes in one of those washing bags with a zipped up little washing bag and stick it in with the wash. Make sure you don't put bleach in or other nasties, but and that way you will minimise the risk. Now, if you've got money hidden away in your house around the place, a lot of people do that. When I was in the bank, I noticed a lot of smelly, shoe-smelly sort of notes come in to be deposited, which was a smart thing to do. Those people should also consider having all the money that they're storing, that they should also be washing all their money. And now we know there's lots of money hidden away. The Reserve Bank, I'm trying to find out exactly how many billions of dollars are stashed away, but apparently 78% of the $100 bills are not in circulation. Someone's hanging on to them. So I suspect all the taxi drivers, all the sex workers, a lot of the cafe owners have got hundreds of dollars stashed away somewhere, don't know where, but it's not in circulation. So if it's been around the traps and it's been used by customers for sex workers, the chances are it's got some, could have some nasty types of bacteria on them, and you've got them stored in the house, and some of them could actually kill you. So if I were you, I'd wash all your money and do it legally, obviously, but those of you who keep taking money out of your businesses, you should keep it in the business and do what some of the because look, when you take money out of a business, you're stifling its growth. Simple as that. You might pay a bit of tax, big deal, but believe me, but what's left over after you pay the tax, the 70% left after paying tax, you can use that money for lots of asset acquiring purposes. And you've just got to look at some of the wealthy families in Australia, and I'll use an example. Many years ago I went to an annual meeting and I met Sam and Faye Gandel. They're now long gone, but they started the Suzanne group, lingerie group, in the 1920s in Collins Street. And I had a chat to them, and they grew from one shop to many hundreds, and now I think there's about 400 or 500 shops by their descendants. Now, do you think they could have grown to that size by knocking off money and withdrawing money out of the business? Imagine going to a bank and saying, look, I want to buy another shop, but I can't prove that this business that I've got, this cafe, is doing so well because I've been taking money out. I mean, it's a silly, illogical thing to do, you know, and you're only, you know, doing yourself a great disservice to think that you can get away and it's advantageous. To think it's advantageous to pull money out of your business that's doing well because you want to save a bit of tax. I mean, it's just silly, as I said. And when it came to that woman who said she couldn't afford to pay the rent, she was trying to sell the business, and she couldn't sell the business because she couldn't prove that the business was doing well because she'd pulled the money out. So you know, it's just false economy, and but people are always trying to avoid tax, and as they try to avoid tax, they end up losing more money than the tax, because most businesses are based on the times earnings ratios, and businesses on the stock exchange are based on, if they're earning 100,000, they might be worth 10 times that, so there might be $1 million, and that's how it goes. Thank you.